Welcome to this episode of Best of America by Horseback. I'm Tom C. with Kristen Biscoe. On this episode, we're going to take you to South Carolina. It's a 16,000 acre plantation known as the Hobcaw Barony.
It was once home to the Hobcaw Indians and a former rice plantation. Once it was purchased by Bernard Baruch, it became a winter retreat for the rich and famous, as well as some of the most powerful men in the world.
Today, it's open to the public thanks to the foresight of Baruch's daughter, Belle, who was an international equestrian and left the land in trust after her death for conservation and research. Stay tuned as you're watching Best of America by Horseback as we're in South Carolina at the Hobcaw Barony.
On this episode of Best of America by Horseback, we are in the low country of South Carolina, visiting and riding horses at the historic Hobcaw Barony, a 16,000 acre plantation that was a private hunting and recreational retreat for presidents to the rich and famous. Today, the Belle W Baruch Foundation is the sole owner of Hobcaw Barony, a privately owned research reserve located on the coast near Georgetown, South Carolina. Belle Baruch was an international equestrian who loved the outdoors and brought her passion for horses to Hobcaw. Her father, Bernard M. Baruch, a Wall Street financier, philanthropist, and advisor to presidents, purchased the property in 1905 for use as a winter hunting retreat. After 50 years, he sold the land to his daughter Belle, who had the foresight to preserve it for future generations. Although privately owned, Hobcaw Barony provides access to the public through guided tours and programs offered by the foundation and universities that includes equestrian access on 20 miles of Belle's beloved riding trails.
George, we get to go to a lot of interesting places and beautiful places like this, and equestrian communities, travel all over the country in Canada, Yukon, Mexico. But every now and then you find a hidden gem, and that's the best way I can describe this place. Hobcaw is a Native American name. What does it mean?
Hobcaw means between the waters. So basically we're at the tip of the peninsula between the Hobcaw River and the Atlantic Ocean, looking out here at the site that we're at today, looking out over Winyah Bay.
And it's a nice little patch of land, about how many acres?
About 16,000 acres.
Tell me about the equestrian side of it.
We are fortunate to have a real history in the equestrian side. Bernard Baruch bought the property in 1905, and of course he had horses here. They would do fox hunts on the property. They would ride on the property. But it was really his daughter Belle that really was the equestrian in the family. His daughter Belle moved to France when she was 21 and began to ride competitively, and she really had a passion for horses. So when she purchased the property from her father in 1936, starting in 35 and then on through the 1950s, she started really building up the use of the property for horses. She started riding. She brought her horses from France back to Hobcaw Barony and would ride daily here on the property. So that's kind of our heritage. Now we do open the property up for horseback riding as part of our public programming. We do have 3 different trails on the property that we use for riding in the spring and fall.
You're talking a little loop mile trail?
A little loop mile trail that's about 20 miles.
Okay.
And it's really designed where people can ride half a day or they can ride all day if they want to. It's just day rides for the most part. But if somebody wants to spend the entire day, they can be here from morning to evening riding the multiple trails and can ride 20 miles in a day if that's what they're interested in.
Hobcaw is a place where both history and research come together. From historical research on the property, we know the Hobcaw Indians inhabited the lands that now make up Hobcaw at least 10,000 years ago. In 1718, King George I of Great Britain gave Hobcaw Barony as a 12,000 acre grant to John Lord Carteret. It was eventually divided and sold as several plantations, and played an integral role in rice production in South Carolina.
In the 1800s, this property that makes up Hobcaw Barony was divided up into multiple rice plantations, maybe as many, the original King's Grant, into as many as 14 separate rice plantations. And the bottomland hardwood forest and marshes along the rivers were converted to rice fields, and it was rice that made men rich. It was truly the commercial crop, the cash crop for Georgetown County and Georgetown District.
And of course, being on the water, it could be shipped anywhere.
It could be. A lot was shipped out by barge, left Georgetown, went down to Charleston, was shipped all over the world. Only Calcutta, India was a larger producer of rice in the 1800s than Georgetown.
After the Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves in 10 southern states, rice production was no longer profitable in South Carolina. Hobcaw Barony was sold to Bernard Baruch, one of the first of a wave of northern industrialists to purchase winter retreats in the area, primarily for duck hunting. His family retreat at Hobcaw soon became a retreat for many of his rich and famous friends, as well as for some of the most powerful men in the world.
There are a lot of people that came here, maybe people with names that we might recognize, like?
Well, certainly Bernard Baruch himself, Wall Street financier, opened his house here at Hobcaw to first businessmen, also from Wall Street, but then congressmen, senators. We also know that Generals Mark Clark and Omar Bradley and Blackjack Pershing were visitors here. And of course Winston Churchill in 1932, when he was recuperating on a trip down to the Bahamas, he sailed up here and visited for several days. Probably no more famous visitor than President Roosevelt, who came for what was to be a 2-week visit, and like so many visitors here on the coast of South Carolina, ended up staying 3 weeks and then 4 weeks. And we certainly believe his health was restored to a point where he might have lived that extra year.
Give him the extra strength, the climate.
It did. He enjoyed it. He fished. There's great videos, some home videos that was taken by a Secret Service agent of the president out on a Coast Guard cutter out on Winyah Bay fishing off the back of the cutter. We got great video that shows Fala, his little dog, running around in the yard here. So we think that 2-week stay that became that month-long stay really did make a difference in the president's life.
Stress.
Gave him a chance where he was away. Nobody was to know where the president was at. It was a secret visit. We can't imagine today the press not knowing where the president's at for a week or a day, much less for a month. But that was the case here when FDR was here.
Bernard Baruch's daughter Belle was much like her father, and she excelled in everything she did. She could outsail, outhunt, and outride many of her male counterparts. She loved all of the diverse ecosystems at Hobcaw Barony and would explore many of them by horseback.
Yeah, if she was here riding today and you saddled up and some of our viewers showed up, which of the horse trails would she'd want to take them on, you'd want to take them on?
Well, I think Belle, the way she loved to ride, would probably want to ride the whole property. But I would head out for the Red Trail first because that gives us a little bit of taste of the history and the waterfront. It gives us an opportunity to see some of the former slave villages on the property. It gives us a chance to see some of the longleaf pine forest on the property and really get to get a feel for the ecology.
As visitors come and tour the property on horseback, they have an opportunity to see a little bit of nearly every single environment we have here on the property. And those different environments are exactly what makes this property unique as a research reserve and also as a destination for tourism. We have 2.5 miles of oceanfront property, a 5,000-acre salt marsh, cypress swamps, upland forest, maritime forest. On that trail ride, they'll go right through Friendfield Village and ride through what was formerly 12 to 16 cabins lived in first by slaves, but then surprisingly, those structures lived in their homes of people until the 1950s. So there's a great deal of South Carolina history that people will see, but especially low country history, and then different environments that influenced the history.
Best of America by Horseback is in Georgetown, South Carolina, visiting Hobcaw Barony. We'll be right back. Best of America by Horseback is visiting Hobcaw Barony, a large plantation owned by the Belle W Baruch Foundation on the coast of South Carolina at Georgetown. This mostly undeveloped, undisturbed 16,000-acre tract of land exists today because of Belle Baruch.
Belle was born in 1899. She really had a love for this property. She spent her winters here growing up as a child, and it really became, the outdoors became a passion for her. She rode, she hunted, she spent time outdoors, and so she always had a special connection to Hobcaw Barony. But when she turned 20 when she turned 21 in 1920, her father gave her her inheritance, and she became a millionaire in 1920. She moved to France, so that's when she started riding. And she started riding competitively. She had her own stable there in France. She had, we know, at least 7 or 8 horses that she owned in France. And Surion was her favorite. He was an Anglo-Arabian that she competed with. This is the horse that she won the French President's Cup with. It's a competition steeplechase that's still run today. She was the first American and the first woman to win that competition. And in 1935, she began to think about moving back to the United States at her father's request. He had served on the Paris Peace Conference after World War I. He was afraid there was going to be another war in Europe, and he asked Belle to come home. And eventually she began purchasing the property here at Hobcaw Barony in 1935, becoming the sole owner by the late 1950s. Built her own house here on the property and built her stable, the Bellefield stable, brought her trainer, John D'Arthez, and her horses from France to the United States and set up her winter home at Hobcaw. She would ride almost daily, even in her youth. There's stories of Belle participating in fox hunts here on the property, not only here on the property, but riding all the way up the, what we now call the Waccamaw Neck, up through Pawleys Island at night, chasing the foxes and the hounds, all the way up to what's Brook Green Gardens today, the Huntington's estate. And still ride as much as she could, but then flying really became her passion later in life. And she could no longer fly as a private citizen. She couldn't fly during the war years, but she joined the Coast Watch. And she would ride by horseback often over to the oceanfront property that's part of Hobcaw Barony and patrol at night. And she did see one night when she was on the coast, lights out to sea. Came back and reported that. Later on it was found out that it was a German spy that was released from a submarine off the coast. Came on shore at Pawleys Island, and in his possession he had plans for the Charleston Naval Base on a sabotage mission we expect coming to the United States.
Belle Baruch was a strong and independent woman. Her personality and passions were shaped by her years growing up at Hobcaw Barony.
Think about her ability to create a research reserve that we don't think exists anywhere else, to be privately supported and made available to colleges, universities, and organizations.
We do have the presence here on the property permanently with Clemson University and the University of South Carolina. Doing research in forestry and marine biology, Clemson is going to celebrate their 50th anniversary of doing research on the property this year. And USC's just behind them. They've been here over 45 years. But we're also open to all the schools in the state and schools from outside of South Carolina that come in to do research in partnership with the South Carolina school.
Specifically, what would they do?
We have long-term projects that have been in place for decades that are monitoring for long-term changes in the ecology of the property. Those are not the typical project though. The typical project is the graduate student that comes in for the summer and they apply to do research here. They come in for a 2-month or 3-month period to put in their project in one of our fields of research. They'll monitor it for that period of time and it goes on to become their master's thesis or longer term, maybe their PhD thesis. There's been hundreds of theses done here, and in fact, in the last 5 years, we've had over 50 different schools and colleges doing work here. We even have research going on now in historic preservation. We have 37 structures on the property dating from the 1840s up through the 1930s that are on the National Register of Historic Places, and the preservation of those structures has become kind of a new field of research for us. So the variety continues to change and increase over the years.
She saw what was changing in New York, New Jersey, and even in Myrtle Beach. She saw the changes, but Belle Baruch also knew that there needed to be a balance. It was exactly why the Baruch family bought this property in 1905, to provide a balance in their own family life. The Belle Baruch Foundation still holds every acre that was purchased by the family.
Best of America by Horseback is in South Carolina, riding at the historic Hobcaw Barony in Georgetown.
Georgetown is a wonderful little port city, beautiful places to shop, eat, and drink right there on the water. We're very fortunate in the fact that we have, so many little towns in South Carolina. We're known for our hospitality, and that sort of southern charm comes from what we call undiscovered South Carolina, what many people would call rural areas. This place is very special. We're standing in now, Hobcaw Barony. And then along the coast, obviously, there's so many things to do that are centered around the beach, from Myrtle Beach to Georgetown to Charleston to Hilton Head.
Equine tourism has become a huge thing here, with people traveling in from other states.
We have 4 great equestrian-centric state parks. We have H. Cooper Black, which is over 7,000 acres, kind of located in the central of the state. We have Cross State Park, which is in the upstate near Spartanburg. Miles and miles of horse trails throughout there. We have Lee State Park, which is not far off Interstate 20 in the Midlands. But probably one of the most special things we have in the state is 3rd Saturday of November through the month of February, you can ride your horse on the beach at Myrtle Beach State Park in Myrtle Beach. That's a special experience.
Hitchcock Woods in Aiken, people know that all over the country. Of course, Aiken is known for its polo.
Steeplechase in Aiken, thousands of people come to see the horses throughout there.
We have a huge race horse industry here. We train young horses here, prep them, send them to race in big races all over the country, and people don't realize that.
What are some of the larger events that are hosted here in South Carolina?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the Carolina Cup, which is a steeplechase in the spring. Miss Marion DuPont Scott started it, but it has become a southern springtime tradition, big party, tailgaters.
60,000 people come to see that Carolina Cup every spring.
For more places to visit in South Carolina, go to discoversouthcarolina.com. You can visit Hobcaw Barony on a guided tour that starts at the Discovery Center.
When you first come in our entrance, we have what we call our Discovery Center. That's where we originate all our programming from. That is available free of charge Monday through Saturday to showcase the ecology and the history of the property. We've got classrooms there and lecture rooms where we generate our school programming through, and we invite a couple of hundred, sometimes as many as a couple of thousand school children through the property each year. And we're also open to the public.
So you're bringing the smartest people on the planet here, and then children just learning to appreciate all of this. So you've got the whole gamut, don't you?
That's what we try to do. We just feel like it's important to get kids out in the environment, let them get their hands dirty. You can talk about it in the classroom, but there's nothing like being out in the field. We as a foundation have a mission to do research with the schools and colleges in South Carolina in forestry and marine biology. That's our core mission. But we've expanded that mission over the years to really include the history and all the ecology of Hobcaw. We are very fortunate to have a strong board. We have 12 trustees. So the board members that come to us come from very different backgrounds that serve on our board to represent those different areas of interest to the foundations. And that gives us really a diversity of expertise on our board, and they do serve us well. Well, we love to have people come and visit Hobcaw Barony. We try to have a variety of opportunities for folks. We do have daily tours of the historic house here, Mr. Baruch's home. Those are bus tours that start from our Discovery Center at our front entrance. We also have boat tours that originate in Georgetown, and then special programs that are seasonal, change each season of the year, and emphasize different historic sites or different features of the property. All of those are listed on our website at hobcawbarony.org.
For more information on visiting Hobcaw Barony, log on to their website, hobcawbarony.org, or call the Discovery Center for information at 843-546-4623.
We are known for our hospitality as well, so do want to invite all of your listeners to come on to South Carolina, come enjoy this place at Hobcaw Barony, enjoy anywhere in South Carolina because we roll out the red carpet, we treat you like family. Come on down and spend some time with us.
Thanks for watching this episode of Best of America by Horseback. If you'd like to follow us, maybe ride with us, or see where we're going to be riding, this is how you do it.
Visit our website, bestofamericabyhorseback.com, and click on the Rides and Events page. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and on YouTube, Best of America by Horseback.
I'm Tom C. with Kristen Biscoe. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
When visiting Georgetown, South Carolina, stay at the beautiful Hampton Inn, Georgetown Marina.